Activity-based costing is used to allocate indirect costs to specific cost objects based on the activities undertaken in the production of the cost object. It is a 7-step process that starts with the identification of activities that are involved in the production of the organisation's cost objects. To make it a little simpler, throughout the rest of this clip, we will refer to cost objects as products, but keep in mind that they can be either products or services. Once we have identified the activities that go into producing our product, we need to work out all the associated indirect costs. That is, those costs that have a cause and effect relationship with the activity. These costs are then collated and assigned to the activity cost pool. Cost drivers or resource drivers are those things that cause changes to occur in the costs identified for our activity cost pools. Once we've determined what these cost drivers are for each cost pool, we establish the number of transactions that have occurred to incur those costs. That is, if we understand that the number of machine setups is a cost driver for machine setup costs, then we need to determine how many machine setups have occurred or will occur that have caused the dollar value of the costs in the cost pool to be incurred. Dividing the value of the cost pool by the number of cost driver transactions gives us a transaction cost rate that is then used to allocate the cost pools based on the actual cost driver transactions for each activity. It is important to note that the first few steps in an activity-based costing exercise are resource-intensive, complex and time-consuming. You need to be sure that the benefits to the organisation will outweigh the associated costs. So because the first few steps are so time-consuming, when you are learning the fundamentals, you will usually be given information that identifies activities, values the cost pools, and the number of cost driver transactions. But you still need to understand the key principles that relate to choosing activities and the underlying causes or drivers of indirect costs attributable to these activities. And you must be able to apply this information in a costing exercise. That is, you need to be able to perform the mathematical calculations to determine the transaction cost rate and to allocate cost pools across the identified products or processes. Once the total allocated amount for each product has been calculated, this can be divided by the number of units produced to get a per unit based cost. This can provide useful information for cost volume profit analysis and for strategic analysis of new or existing products. So why or when would implementing an ABC system be a good idea? It's been found that the benefits to an organisation from ABC are usually the greatest when we have overheads or indirect costs forming a significant portion of the organisation's total costs, or there is a diverse product range with significant variation in batch sizes and complexity between products, or the proportion of indirect costs as a ratio to direct manufacturing costs are increasing, or where there is the potential for high costs to the business for making inappropriate product decisions. When diversity exists between product types and product batch sizes, ABC is much better at reflecting true costs. A conventional cost allocation system is likely to overstate the costs associated with simple but high volume products and will understate the cost of complex or small batch products.